My sister Maya thought she could steal my wedding dress and get away with it. She had no idea I'd already bought her dream designer gown as backup. When she saw me walk down that aisle, the look on her face was priceless. But this story starts 3 months earlier, when I made the biggest mistake of trusting my family. I'd love to know which corner of the globe you're watching from. And if this story speaks to you, make sure to subscribe. Tomorrow's video is one you absolutely can't miss. 3 months before my wedding to Connor Mitchell, I was living in what I thought was pure bliss. We'd been together for 4 years, engaged for 8 months, and everything seemed to be falling perfectly into place. Our venue in downtown Sacramento was booked, the catering was confirmed, and I'd finally found the perfect dress at Marina's bridal boutique. The dress was everything I'd dreamed of: ivory silk with delicate beading along the bodice, a flowing A-line skirt that made me feel like royalty, and a chapel-length train that took my breath away. It cost me $3,200, which was way more than I'd originally budgeted. But the moment I put it on, I knew it was the one. I'd been saving for 2 years, working double shifts at the accounting firm just to afford something this beautiful. My sister Maya was with me when I found it. She was supposed to be my maid of honor, and I'd asked her to come dress shopping because, despite our complicated relationship, she had incredible taste. Maya had always been the fashionable one in our family. At 26, she was 2 years younger than me, but somehow always managed to look like she'd stepped out of a magazine. She worked as a marketing coordinator for a tech startup and had this effortless style that I'd always envied. When I came out of the fitting room, Maya's reaction was immediate and intense. Her eyes went wide and she actually gasped. "Diane, that dress is absolutely stunning," she said, but there was something in her voice that I couldn't quite place. It wasn't just admiration. There was something deeper, almost longing. "You really think so?" I asked, turning in front of the three-way mirror. The dress fit like it had been made specifically for me. "I think Connor's going to faint when he sees you," she replied, but she couldn't seem to take her eyes off the dress. She walked around me slowly, examining every detail, running her fingers along the beading. "The craftsmanship is incredible. This is real designer work, isn't it?" The boutique owner, Mrs. Chen, nodded proudly. "This is from our premium collection. It's actually a modified version of a dress that was featured in Bridal Elegance magazine last year." Maya's expression shifted slightly, and I caught her staring at herself in the mirror while standing behind me, almost as if she were imagining herself in the dress. But I brushed off the weird feeling. This was my moment, and I was too happy to overthink her reaction. We lived together in a 2-bedroom apartment in Midtown, which had seemed like a great arrangement when I first suggested it 18 months earlier. Maya had just broken up with her boyfriend of 3 years, Tyler Harrison, and was struggling to afford rent on her own. I thought it would be perfect, sisters supporting each other, saving money, and having built-in company. Connor had his own place across town, so it wasn't like we were crowding each other, but living with Maya had proven more challenging than I'd expected. She was messy, always leaving her clothes everywhere, dirty dishes in the sink, and she had this habit of borrowing my things without asking. Nothing major, my sweaters, shoes, jewelry, but it was starting to get on my nerves. When I'd bring it up, she'd laugh it off and say we were sisters, so what was mine was hers. The dress lived in my closet for 2 weeks after I bought it. I'd hung it in the very back, still in its protective garment bag, waiting for the final alterations appointment. Every few days, I'd peek in just to make sure it was still there, and to remind myself that my wedding was really happening. Maya had been acting strange since the dress shopping trip. She'd become almost obsessed with wedding planning, constantly bringing up details that hadn't even occurred to me. She'd ask about the flowers, the music, the decorations, but she always seemed to circle back to the dress. "Are you sure about the length of the train?" she'd ask. "What if it gets dirty walking down the aisle?" Or, "Have you thought about getting a second dress for the reception?" Some brides change halfway through. I found her behavior odd, but attributed it to excitement. Maya had always been dramatic, and she'd never been particularly close to getting married herself. Her relationship with Tyler had ended badly. He'd cheated on her with a coworker, and she'd been pretty bitter about relationships ever since. I figured maybe living vicariously through my wedding planning was her way of dealing with her own disappointment about love. 2 weeks before my final dress fitting, I came home from work to find Maya sitting on our couch with her laptop, surrounded by printouts of wedding dresses. Her eyes were red like she'd been crying. "What's wrong?" I asked, dropping my purse and sitting beside her. She looked up at me with this expression I'd never seen before, part desperation, part guilt. "Diane, I need to tell you something, and you're probably going to hate me." My stomach dropped. "What happened?" "Tyler contacted me," she said quietly. "He wants to get back together." I felt a wave of relief. "Maya, that's great news if that's what you want." "Why would I hate you for that?" She shook her head. "No, you don't understand. He proposed." I blinked, trying to process what she was saying. "He proposed? When? How?" "Yesterday. He showed up at my work with this huge bouquet of roses and got down on one knee right in front of everyone. He said he'd been miserable without me and that he knew now that I was the only woman he'd ever love." I grabbed her hands. "Maya, that's incredible." "Why are you crying?" "This is amazing news." But she pulled her hands away and looked down at the laptop screen, which I now realized was showing wedding venues. "Because he wants to get married right away. Like really soon. He's been planning this whole elaborate wedding, and he already put deposits down on everything." "How soon?" I asked, though I was starting to get a sinking feeling. 3 weeks, she whispered. 3 weeks. 1 week after my wedding. "Maya, that's cutting it really close to my wedding date. Are you sure you want to plan something that quickly?" She looked at me with tears in her eyes. "Diane, I'm so sorry, but Tyler already booked everything. The venue, the caterer, the photographer. He did it all as a surprise. The only date they had available was—" She paused and took a shaky breath. "The same day as your wedding." I felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. "The exact same day?" She nodded miserably. "Saturday, June 15th. I tried to tell him it was your wedding day, but he'd already signed contracts and put down non-refundable deposits. He spent his entire savings on this, Diane. He said he couldn't wait another day to marry me because he'd already wasted too much time being stupid." I sat back on the couch, trying to wrap my head around this information. My sister was getting married on the same day as me, after months of helping me plan my wedding, after being my maid of honor, after everything. So what does this mean? I asked carefully. Maya's face crumpled. "It means I can't be your maid of honor anymore. It means I'm going to miss your wedding. It means I'm the worst sister in the world." I wanted to be angry, but looking at her devastated face, I could see how torn up she was about the situation. And honestly, part of me understood. Tyler had put her through hell when he cheated, and if he was genuinely trying to make things right, maybe this was her chance at happiness. "Maya, it's okay," I said, even though it definitely didn't feel okay. "We'll figure something out. Maybe Connor and I can move our date." But even as I said it, I knew it wasn't realistic. We'd already sent out invitations, booked vendors, and Connor's entire family was flying in from Oregon. Moving the date would cost us thousands of dollars we didn't have. "No," Maya said firmly. "Absolutely not. You're not changing your wedding date because of my mess. We'll just have to accept that we're both getting married on the same day." That night I called my mom to break the news. Patricia Lopez had been looking forward to both her daughters' weddings for years, and the idea of having to choose between them was devastating. "How is this even possible?" Mom asked. "Couldn't Tyler have checked with Maya about the date first?" "Apparently it was supposed to be a romantic surprise," I said, "and the venue only had that one date available for the next 6 months." "Well, I guess we'll just have to split our time between both weddings," Mom said, but I could hear the strain in her voice. "Your father and I will figure out the logistics." The next morning, Maya was gone when I woke up, and she didn't come home until late that evening. When she did, she seemed different, excited, almost manic. "I've been thinking about everything," she announced, dropping several shopping bags on the living room floor. "And I think this could actually work out perfectly." "What do you mean?" "Well, since we're both getting married on the same day, and our weddings are only 2 hours apart, Some people can go to both. Like, they can come to your ceremony and then drive over to mine for the reception. I stared at her. Maya, my reception starts an hour after my ceremony. People can't be in two places at once. Right, but what if we coordinate? Like, what if we plan our weddings to complement each other instead of compete? I had no idea what she was talking about, but the look in her eyes was making me nervous. What exactly are you suggesting? She pulled a folder out of one of her shopping bags. I've been doing research, and I found this wedding planning company that specializes in coordinating multiple events. They could help us make sure our weddings work together. Maya, I don't think— Just hear me out, she interrupted. What if we had similar color schemes? What if we used the same florist and photographer? What if we made it like a celebration weekend instead of two separate events? A lot of love and effort went into bringing this story to life. If you're enjoying it, we'd be so grateful if you'd subscribe to our channel. Now back to where we left off. The more she talked, the more uncomfortable I became. It sounded less like she wanted to coordinate our weddings and more like she wanted to merge them. I appreciate the thought, but Connor and I have already planned everything exactly how we want it. Maya's face fell slightly, but she quickly recovered. Of course. I'm not trying to change your plans. I just thought maybe there were some small things we could coordinate to make the day easier for our family and friends. Over the next few days, Maya's wedding planning went into overdrive. She was constantly on the phone with vendors, meeting with venue coordinators, and staying up late browsing wedding websites. She'd ask for my opinion on flowers, decorations, and menu choices, and I tried to be supportive, but something felt off about the whole thing. Wasn't until I overheard a conversation she was having with her photographer that I realized what was bothering me. I want something classic and elegant, she was saying. Ivory and gold color scheme, lots of romantic lighting. Actually, let me send you a photo of the exact style I'm going for. Ivory and gold. Those were my exact wedding colors. When she hung up, I confronted her. Maya, did you just tell your photographer you want ivory and gold colors? She looked startled. Oh, yeah, why? Because those are my wedding colors. The ones I picked 6 months ago. The ones you helped me choose. Maya's face flushed. I know, but they're such classic colors. Lots of brides use ivory and gold. It's not like you own them. Technically, she was right, but it felt like more than a coincidence. It just seems weird that you'd choose the exact same colors on the exact same day. Diane, I'm sorry if it bothers you, but I really love that color combination. And it's not like anyone's going to be comparing our weddings side by side. But that was exactly what people would be doing. And we both knew it. The final straw came 3 days later, when Maya casually mentioned that she'd booked the same photographer I was using. The photographer's situation was the breaking point. When Maya told me she'd booked Rachel Morrison, the same photographer Connor and I had reserved 8 months earlier, I couldn't pretend this was all coincidental anymore. Maya, Rachel is our photographer, I said, trying to keep my voice level. We booked her almost a year ago. I know. But when I called her office, they said she could do both weddings since they're at different times, Maya replied, not meeting my eyes. She's going to photograph your ceremony and then drive over to mine for the reception shots. It's actually perfect timing. Nothing about this felt perfect. Rachel Morrison was Sacramento's most sought-after wedding photographer, and we'd booked her specifically because her style matched exactly what Connor and I wanted. Now Maya was essentially hijacking our photographer for her own wedding. Did you even consider finding your own photographer? I asked. Maya finally looked at me, and there was something defiant in her expression. Diane, Rachel is the best in the city. Why would I settle for someone else when she's available? Besides, this way our wedding photos will have a consistent style. But I don't want our wedding photos to have a consistent style, I said, frustration creeping into my voice. I want our weddings to be completely separate events. You're being ridiculous, Maya snapped. It's not like she's going to use the exact same poses for both of us. That night, I called Connor to vent about the situation. He listened patiently while I explained everything that had been happening with Maya's wedding planning. Babe, I hate to say this, but it sounds like your sister is trying to copy your wedding, he said when I finished. That's what I'm thinking, but I feel crazy even saying it out loud. She's my sister. Why would she do that? I don't know, but the same colors, same photographer, same date? That's not a coincidence. Connor was right, but I didn't know what to do about it. Confronting Maya directly would probably just cause a huge fight, and with 2 weeks left until both weddings, the last thing either of us needed was family drama. The next morning, I decided to check on my dress. I had my final fitting scheduled for the following week, but I wanted to make sure everything was still perfect. When I opened my closet and reached for the garment bag, my heart stopped. The bag was there, but it felt wrong. Too light, too flat. With trembling hands, I unzipped the bag, already knowing what I would find. Empty. The dress was gone. I stood there for a full minute, staring at the empty garment bag, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. My $3,000 wedding dress had vanished from my own closet. Maya wasn't home, so I called her cell phone immediately. "Hey, what's up?" She answered cheerfully. "Maya, where is my wedding dress?" There was a long pause. "What do you mean?" "I mean my wedding dress is missing from my closet. The garment bag is here, but the dress is gone." "That's weird," she said, but her voice sounded strange. "Maybe you moved it somewhere else?" "I didn't move it anywhere else." "Maya, do you know where my dress is?" Another pause. "Diane, I have no idea. Maybe Connor took it to surprise you with alterations or something?" I knew she was lying. Connor would never take my dress without telling me, and he definitely wouldn't know how to arrange alterations. "Maya, I'm going to ask you one more time. Do you know where my wedding dress is?" "I already told you, I don't know," she said, but now she sounded defensive. "Look, I'm at work right now. Can we talk about this later?" She hung up before I could respond. I spent the rest of the day tearing apart our apartment, looking for any sign of my dress. I checked Maya's closet, under her bed, in the laundry room. Even in storage areas I knew were too small to hide a wedding dress. Nothing. When Maya came home that evening, I was waiting for her in the living room. "We need to talk," I said. She looked nervous but tried to play it off. "About what?" "About my missing wedding dress." "I know you took it, Maya." Her face went completely white. "That's a serious accusation, Diane. Why would I steal your wedding dress?" "Because you've been copying every single aspect of my wedding since Tyler proposed. Same colors, same photographer, same date. Now my dress mysteriously disappears right before my fitting." Maya sat down heavily on the couch. For a moment, I thought she was going to confess, but then she looked at me with tears in her eyes. "I can't believe you think I would do something like that." "I'm your sister, then prove it," I said. "Let me search your room." "Absolutely not. I'm not going to let you tear through my personal belongings because you're paranoid." The fact that she wouldn't let me search her room confirmed my suspicions, but I had no idea what to do next. I couldn't call the police on my own sister, and I had no proof that she'd actually taken the dress. That night, I barely slept. My wedding was 12 days away, and I had no dress. Even if I could find something else, it would never be as perfect as the one I'd chosen. The one Maya had seen me fall in love with at the boutique. The next morning, Maya was gone before I woke up, and she didn't answer my calls or texts all day. By evening, I was desperate enough to start calling bridal shops to see if anyone had a dress in my size that could be altered quickly. Marina's bridal boutique, where I'd bought my original dress, was sympathetic but couldn't help on such short notice. 3 other shops told me the same thing. I was starting to panic when I remembered something Mrs. Chen had mentioned during my first visit. She'd said my dress was a modified version of one that had been featured in Bridal Elegance magazine. If there was an original designer version, maybe I could track it down. I spent hours online searching for the magazine feature and finally found it. The dress was called Ethereal Dreams, and it was designed by Isabella Marchetti, an Italian designer who specialized in luxury bridal wear. According to the article, the original dress retailed for $8,000 and was only available through select high-end boutiques. It was way more than I could afford, but I was desperate. I called every luxury bridal shop in Northern California, explaining my situation and asking if they had the dress in stock. Most of them laughed when I told them I needed it in less than 2 weeks. Finally, on my 10th call, I reached Bella Rosa Bridal in San Francisco. The owner, Mrs. Romano, listened to my story with growing sympathy. "Sweetheart, I do have that dress in your size," she said. "But I have to be honest with you. It's $8,500, and even if you could afford it, there's no way we could do proper alterations in 12 days. I felt tears welling up in my eyes. "Please, there has to be something you can do. I'll pay anything." Mrs. Romano was quiet for a moment. "Let me ask you something. You said your sister took your original dress?" "I'm 99% sure she did, yes." "And she's getting married on the same day as you?" "Yes." There was another pause. "Honey, I've been in this business for 30 years, and I've seen this exact situation before. Sister rivalry over weddings can get very ugly. Tell you what, if you can get to my shop tomorrow morning, I'll see what I can do about the dress and the alterations. No promises, but I might be able to help you." I could have cried with relief. "Thank you so much. I'll be there first thing tomorrow." That evening, Maya finally came home. She looked exhausted and avoided eye contact with me. "We need to figure this out," I said as soon as she walked in the door. "Figure out what?" "The dress situation. My final fitting is in 5 days and I have no dress. If you took it, I need it back now so I can get it altered properly." Maya slumped into a chair and put her head in her hands. "Diane, I swear to you, I did not steal your wedding dress." But something in her voice told me she wasn't telling me the whole truth. The next morning, I drove to San Francisco to meet Mrs. Romano. Bella Rosa Bridal was everything I'd imagined: elegant, sophisticated, and filled with the most beautiful dresses I'd ever seen. Mrs. Romano was a tiny Italian woman with silver hair and kind eyes. "You must be Diane," she said, greeting me with a warm hug. "I've been thinking about your situation all night." She led me to a private fitting room where the Ethereal Dreams dress was waiting. When I saw it, I gasped. It was even more beautiful than my original dress. The silk was a richer ivory, the beading was more intricate, and the overall design was more sophisticated. This was clearly the dress my original had been inspired by. "It's incredible," I whispered. "Try it on," Mrs. Romano encouraged. The dress fit like it had been made for me. It was perfect in every way, and as I looked at myself in the 3-way mirror, I felt beautiful again for the first time since my dress had disappeared. "Now, about the alterations," Mrs. Romano said. "Normally I would never attempt this on such short notice, but I have a feeling your sister is going to show up in your original dress, and no sister should be upstaged at her own wedding." I looked at her in surprise. "How did you—" "Like I said, I've seen this before. And I have a plan that's going to ensure you're the most beautiful bride anyone has ever seen." Mrs. Romano's plan was ambitious and expensive, but I didn't care about the cost anymore. I was going to have the wedding dress of my dreams, and Maya would have no idea what was coming. Mrs. Romano's plan was brilliant and devious. She explained it to me while her seamstress, Angela, took detailed measurements for the emergency alterations. "Your sister thinks she's going to steal your thunder by wearing your dress," Mrs. Romano said, pinning the hem of the Ethereal Dreams gown. "But what she doesn't realize is that she's actually wearing a knockoff of this masterpiece. When you walk down that aisle in the original Isabella Marchetti design, everyone will see the difference immediately." The plan required me to keep the new dress completely secret. Mrs. Romano would have her team work around the clock to ensure perfect alterations, and I would pick it up the morning of my wedding. Meanwhile, I had to pretend I was still frantically searching for a replacement dress. "But what about the cost?" I asked, still overwhelmed by the $8,500 price tag. Mrs. Romano smiled mysteriously. "Let me worry about that. I have a feeling this story is going to be excellent advertising for my boutique. Sometimes the best investment is in justice." I left San Francisco feeling hopeful for the first time in days. Maya thought she was outsmarting me, but she had no idea what was coming. When I got home, Maya was in the kitchen making dinner. She looked up when I walked in, and I could see guilt written all over her face. "How was your day?" she asked, too casually. Terrible, I said, deciding to play up my desperation. I've called every bridal shop in the state, and nobody has anything in my size that can be altered in time. I might have to get married in a regular dress. Maya's expression flickered between sympathy and something that looked almost like satisfaction. I'm so sorry, Diane. I wish there was something I could do to help. The audacity of her sympathy while she was hiding my dress somewhere made my blood boil, but I forced myself to look defeated. It's fine. I guess it's just not meant to be. That evening, Connor came over to help me continue the charade of searching for a dress. We spent hours on websites pretending to look for last-minute options while Maya hovered nearby, occasionally offering unhelpful suggestions. What about renting something? Maya suggested at one point. I already checked, I lied. Everything in my size is already booked for June weddings. Connor played his part perfectly, looking genuinely distressed about my situation. Maybe we should postpone the wedding, he said. I know how much finding the perfect dress meant to you. No, I said firmly. We're not postponing our wedding because of a dress. I'll figure something out. Maya excused herself early that evening, claiming she had her own wedding preparations to handle. After she left, Connor and I had a chance to talk privately. I can't believe she's actually going through with this, Connor said. Stealing your dress is bad enough, but watching you suffer while pretending to be sympathetic? That's sociopathic. I keep thinking there has to be an explanation, I said. Maybe she really didn't take it. Maybe I'm wrong about everything. But even as I said it, I didn't believe it. Too many things had happened for this to be coincidental. The next few days were torture. I had to maintain the pretense of being a desperate bride while secretly coordinating with Mrs. Romano about alterations. Maya continued to act concerned about my dress situation, even offering to lend me one of her own formal dresses for the ceremony. I have that long white dress I wore to Jennifer's rehearsal dinner last year, she suggested. It's not a wedding dress, but it's elegant and it would look beautiful on you. The fact that she was willing to lend me a regular white dress while hiding my actual wedding dress was infuriating. But I managed to thank her politely and decline. 3 days before the wedding, I got a call from Mrs. Romano with an update on the alterations. The dress is going to be perfect, she said. Angela worked late every night this week, and the modifications are flawless. But I have some interesting news about your sister. My heart stopped. What about her? She called my shop yesterday asking about the Ethereal Dreams dress. She wanted to know if we had it in stock and what the price was. I felt sick. What did you tell her? I told her we were completely sold out and that the dress wasn't available anywhere on the West Coast. She sounded very disappointed, so Maya knew about the original designer dress. She'd probably researched it after stealing my dress, realized what she had wasn't the real thing, and was trying to upgrade her theft. The calculation behind her actions was becoming clearer and more disturbing. That evening, Maya announced she was going to spend the night before our weddings at Tyler's apartment, so she wouldn't see him before the ceremony. It's bad luck for the groom to see the bride beforehand, she said. Plus, I need to get my hair and makeup done early since my wedding is later in the day. I nodded along, but I was already planning. With Maya gone, I'd finally have a chance to search for my original dress without her interference. The morning before our weddings, after Maya left for Tyler's place, I systematically searched every inch of our apartment. I checked closets, storage areas, under beds, in the garage, even in her car when I found her spare keys. Nothing. Finally, in desperation, I decided to check the one place I hadn't thought of, our building's storage unit. Maya had rented a small storage space in the basement when she moved in, claiming she needed somewhere to keep her seasonal decorations and old furniture. I'd never been in the storage unit, but I knew Maya kept the key on her keychain with her spare car keys. When I opened the metal door and turned on the light, I found it immediately. My wedding dress was hanging in the back corner, still in its protective bag, looking exactly as perfect as the day I'd bought it. But it wasn't alone. Next to it hung another white dress, clearly Maya's wedding dress. And when I looked closer, I realized what she'd done. Maya hadn't just stolen my dress to wear to her own wedding. She'd bought herself a different dress, a much cheaper one that looked similar to mine but was obviously lower quality. She was planning to wear my expensive dress while letting everyone think she'd bought something comparable for her own wedding. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was what I found hanging next to both dresses, a third white gown with the tag still attached. It was the exact same style as my original dress, but in a smaller size. Maya had bought herself a backup option, just in case her plan fell through. She'd stolen my dress, bought herself a replacement, and acquired a third dress as insurance. This wasn't just theft. It was a carefully orchestrated plan to ensure she'd have the most beautiful dress at both weddings, no matter what happened. I photographed everything with my phone as evidence, then carefully locked the storage unit and returned the keys to their hiding place. Maya had no idea I'd found her stash, which meant my plan could proceed without any complications. That evening, Connor took me to a quiet dinner to celebrate our last night as an unmarried couple. I filled him in on everything I'd discovered in the storage unit. "So she has 3 wedding dresses?" Connor asked incredulously. "3 white dresses, including mine? She's been planning this for weeks, maybe since the day she saw me in my dress at the boutique." Connor shook his head. "I'm sorry you have to deal with this, especially from your own sister. But tomorrow, when she sees you in that designer dress, she's going to realize she messed with the wrong person." We went to bed early that night, both excited and nervous about the following day. I barely slept, running through every detail of Mrs. Romano's plan and imagining Maya's face when she saw me walking down the aisle in the real ethereal dreams dress. The morning of our wedding day, I woke up before dawn and drove to San Francisco to collect my dress. Mrs. Romano was waiting for me at the boutique with the most beautiful garment bag I'd ever seen. "This is it," she said, unzipping the bag to reveal the finished dress. "You're going to be the most stunning bride California has ever seen." The alterations were perfect. The dress fit like it had been custom-made for my body, and the intricate beadwork caught the light in ways that made the fabric seem to glow. This wasn't just a wedding dress, it was a work of art. "Mrs. Romano, I don't know how to thank you," I said, tears forming in my eyes. "Just promise me you'll send photos," she replied with a knowing smile. "I have a feeling this is going to be a wedding people talk about for years." As I drove back to Sacramento with my real wedding dress safely stored in my car, I felt a mixture of excitement and nerves about the confrontation that was coming. Maya had no idea that her carefully planned scheme was about to backfire spectacularly. The game was about to begin, and I was finally ready to play. Wedding day arrived with perfect Sacramento sunshine streaming through my hotel room windows. I'd decided to get ready at the Marriott downtown, far away from any chance of running into Maya before the ceremony. My bridesmaids, Connor's sister Jessica and my college roommate Amanda, arrived at 8 in the morning with coffee, pastries, and enough excitement to power the entire city. "I can't wait to see this mystery dress," Jessica said as she set up the makeup station. "You've been so secretive about it." "Trust me, it's worth the wait," I replied, glancing at the garment bag hanging in the corner. Even covered, the ethereal dreams dress seemed to radiate elegance. Amanda was scrolling through her phone when she looked up with a confused expression. "Diane, did you know your sister posted about her wedding dress on Instagram this morning?" My stomach dropped. "What did she post?" Amanda showed me her screen. There was Maya, radiant and smiling, wearing my original wedding dress in what looked like her hotel room. The caption read, "Feeling like a princess in my dream dress. Can't wait to marry my soulmate Tyler in a few hours. Wedding day, dreams, come true, dear princess bride." The comments were already pouring in. "Stunning! You look incredible! That dress is absolutely gorgeous." What made it worse was seeing our mutual friends and relatives commenting, people who would be at my wedding in just 4 hours. They were already seeing Maya's dress, not knowing it was actually mine. "That's definitely your dress, isn't it?" Jessica asked quietly. I nodded, unable to speak for a moment. Maya wasn't just stealing my dress. She was flaunting it on social media, claiming it as her own creation. building excitement for her appearance in it. The calculated cruelty of it took my breath away. "Well," Amanda said firmly, "she's about to learn a very expensive lesson about karma." At 10 o'clock, my hair and makeup artist arrived. Sarah Martinez had been recommended by Mrs. Romano and specialized in high-fashion bridal looks. She took one look at my dress and understood the assignment immediately. "We're going for old Hollywood glamour meets modern sophistication," Sarah announced, getting to work. "This dress deserves nothing less than perfection." While Sarah worked her magic, transforming my hair into an elaborate updo with subtle braids and perfectly placed pearls, I tried to calm my nerves about the confrontation ahead. In 2 hours, Maya would see me walk down the aisle in the real designer dress, and her world would crumble. My phone buzzed with text messages from relatives asking about my dress situation. Word had apparently spread through the family that I was having dress difficulties, and everyone was concerned about what I'd end up wearing. "Don't worry about anything." I texted back to each inquiry. Everything worked out perfectly. At noon, it was time to put on the dress. Jessica and Amanda helped me step into the ethereal dreams gown, and when Sarah finished with the final touches, a delicate tiara that complemented the dress's beadwork and my grandmother's pearl earrings, I looked in the full-length mirror and barely recognized myself. The woman staring back at me looked like she'd stepped out of a fairy tale. The dress moved with me like liquid silk. The beadwork caught the light at every angle, and the overall effect was nothing short of breathtaking. This wasn't just beautiful, it was extraordinary. "Oh my God," Amanda whispered. "Diane, you look like royalty." Jessica was taking photos with her phone. "Connor is going to faint when he sees you, and your sister is going to die of shock." At 12:30, my father arrived to escort me to the ceremony. David Lopez had always been a man of few words, but when he saw me in the dress, tears actually formed in his eyes. "Mija, you are the most beautiful bride I've ever seen," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "Your mother is going to cry for an hour." The ceremony was being held at Vizcaya Gardens, an elegant outdoor venue with manicured lawns and a stunning gazebo surrounded by white roses. As our car pulled up, I could see guests already seated, everyone dressed in their finest clothes for what they thought would be a simple family wedding. Rachel Morrison, our photographer, was waiting near the bridal suite entrance. When she saw me, her professional composure cracked for just a moment. "Diane, that dress is incredible," she said. "I've never seen anything like it. This is going to be the most photographed wedding of my career." Rachel had no idea about the drama that was about to unfold, but she was about to capture every moment of it. At exactly 1 o'clock, the music began. Jessica and Amanda walked down the aisle first, looking beautiful in their sage green bridesmaid dresses. Then came my moment. The bridal march started, and my father and I stepped into view of the assembled guests. The reaction was immediate and electric. I heard actual gasps from the crowd, saw people sitting up straighter in their chairs, watched as phones came out to capture photos of my entrance. But the best reaction came from Connor. He was standing at the altar with his groomsmen, and when he saw me, his face went through a series of emotions: surprise, awe, and then pure joy. He mouthed, "Wow," and wiped away tears, and I knew that no matter what happened with Maya later, this moment was perfect. As we walked down the aisle, I could hear whispered comments from the guests. "That dress is stunning. She looks like a movie star." I've never seen anything so elegant. The ceremony itself was beautiful. Connor and I had written our own vows, and when he promised to love me through every challenge, every surprise, and every family drama, I had to fight back laughter. If only he knew what was coming in a few hours. After we kissed and were pronounced husband and wife, the congratulations began immediately. Everyone wanted to talk about my dress, ask where I'd found it, comment on how incredible it looked. My cousin Maria, who worked in fashion, actually recognized the designer. "Diane, is that an Isabella Marchetti original?" she asked, examining the beadwork closely. "I saw this exact dress in Vogue Italia last year. It cost more than my car." "It's a long story," I replied with a mysterious smile. The reception was held in the same gardens, with cocktails and dancing under string lights. Everything was perfect, but I couldn't fully enjoy it because I kept thinking about Maya's reaction when she realized what had happened. Around 4 o'clock, as guests were beginning to leave for Maya's ceremony, my mother pulled me aside. Patricia Lopez looked stunning in her navy blue mother-of-the-bride dress, but I could see stress in her eyes. "Mija, I need to ask you something," she said quietly. "Did you and Maya coordinate on your dresses somehow? Because she's been posting photos all morning of herself wearing a dress that looks very similar to yours. This was the moment I'd been dreading, having to explain to my mother that her younger daughter was a thief. Mom, we need to talk after Maya's wedding. There's something you need to know about what's been happening." My mother studied my face carefully. She'd raised 2 daughters, and she knew when something was seriously wrong. "Diane, what did your sister do?" Before I could answer, my phone rang. It was Tyler Harrison, Maya's groom, and he sounded panicked. "Diane, I'm so sorry to bother you on your wedding day, but I need to ask you something urgent," he said. "Maya is absolutely losing her mind right now. She keeps saying something about your dress, and she's crying so hard she can't get her makeup done. What happened between you two?" My heart started racing. "What exactly is Maya saying?" "She keeps looking at photos from your ceremony and saying that you stole her dress. She's screaming that you somehow got the exact same dress she was supposed to wear, but better. She's saying you ruined everything on purpose." So Maya had seen the photos from my wedding and realized that my dress wasn't just similar to hers. It was the superior version of what she'd stolen. The knockoff she'd thought was so perfect suddenly looked cheap and inferior compared to the original designer masterpiece. "Tyler, I can't really explain everything over the phone," I said. "But Maya needs to calm down and get ready for her own wedding. Whatever issues we have can be worked out later. She's saying she can't get married now because everyone will think she copied your dress. Diane, I don't understand what's happening, but my wedding is supposed to start in 2 hours and my bride is having a complete breakdown." After I hung up, Connor came over to check on me. "Everything okay? You look like you've seen a ghost. Maya's figured out that my dress is the real deal, and she's having a meltdown. Tyler just called asking what's wrong with her." Connor's eyes lit up with satisfaction. So the plan worked. She finally realized she messed with the wrong person. "I almost feel bad for her," I said, though I wasn't sure if that was entirely true. "She brought this on herself, but still—" "Don't you dare feel guilty," Amanda interjected, having overheard our conversation. "She stole your wedding dress and tried to upstage you at your own wedding. Whatever consequences she's facing now, she earned them." An hour later, we got another call, this time from my uncle Roberto, who had left my reception to attend Maya's ceremony. He sounded confused and slightly amused. "Diane, I don't know what kind of sister drama is happening, but Maya just walked down the aisle in a wedding dress that looks exactly like yours, except not as nice. The whole thing is very strange. People are whispering and taking pictures, and not in a good way." So Maya had gone through with wearing my stolen dress, even knowing that everyone had just seen me in the superior version. The comparison must have been devastating. My elegant designer gown versus her knockoff version would have been obvious to everyone in attendance. "How did she look?" I asked, curiosity getting the better of me. Honestly, embarrassed. She kept her head down the whole walk, and she looked like she'd been crying. Tyler looked confused, and your parents looked mortified. It was uncomfortable to watch. That evening, Connor and I were in our honeymoon suite when my mother called. She'd attended both weddings and finally understood what had been happening. "Diane Maria Lopez Mitchell," she said, using my full name like she had when I was in trouble as a child. "Your sister told me everything. She admitted she took your dress and has been lying about it for weeks." "What did she say exactly?" "She confessed that she found your dress in the boutique computer system when she was helping you shop, researched the original designer, and realized she could never afford anything like it herself. She said she took it in a moment of weakness and then panicked when you noticed it was missing." My mother's voice was heavy with disappointment. "She also said she had no idea you'd managed to get the original designer version. She thought you'd be forced to wear something simple. And she'd be the most elegant bride of the day. Mom, I'm sorry you had to find out this way. Don't you apologize? My mother interrupted. I raised you girls better than this. Maya's behavior is unacceptable, and she knows it. She wants to talk to you and apologize properly. 2 hours later, Maya showed up at our hotel. She was still in her wedding dress, my wedding dress, but she looked completely defeated. Her makeup was smeared from crying, and she could barely make eye contact with me. Diane, I am so sorry, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I know what I did was unforgivable. I was jealous and stupid, and I ruined both of our wedding days. Looking at her standing there in my stolen dress, I felt a mixture of anger and pity. Maya, why didn't you just talk to me? If you couldn't afford the dress you wanted, I would have helped you find something beautiful. Because I was embarrassed, she said, tears flowing freely. You always had everything together. The perfect job, the perfect fiancé, the perfect dress. I wanted just one day where I felt as special as you always seemed to feel. So you decided to steal my special day instead? Maya nodded miserably. It made sense in my head when I was planning it. But seeing you today, seeing how incredible you looked in that designer dress, I realized how wrong I was. Everyone could tell the difference between your dress and this one. I looked like a cheap imitation of my own sister. That was exactly what had happened. But hearing her acknowledge it took some of the satisfaction out of my revenge. Maya, I want you to know that I forgive you, I said finally. But it's going to take time for me to trust you again. She nodded, understanding. I'm going to return your dress tomorrow and pay for any cleaning it needs. And I'm going to find a way to pay you back for whatever you spent on that amazing dress you wore today. The dress was a gift, I said. From someone who understood that justice sometimes requires a grand gesture. Maya looked confused, but didn't ask for details. She hugged me awkwardly, still wearing my stolen dress, and left to begin the long process of rebuilding our relationship. Later that night, as Connor and I finally had time to process everything that had happened, he shook his head in amazement. Your sister actually thought she could outdress you at your own wedding using your own dress, he said. The audacity is almost impressive. The sad thing is, if she'd just been honest about wanting a beautiful dress, we could have worked something out. Instead, she turned our wedding day into a soap opera. Well, at least it's a soap opera where the good guy wins, Connor said, pulling me close. And you looked absolutely incredible today. That dress was worth every penny of whatever you paid for it. I smiled, thinking about Mrs. Romano and her mysterious generosity. Sometimes the universe provides exactly what you need, exactly when you need it. And as we fell asleep in each other's arms on our wedding night, I realized that Maya's betrayal had actually given me something precious. The knowledge that I was stronger than I'd thought, and that sometimes the best revenge is simply being magnificent. The weeks following our double wedding day were unlike anything I could have imagined. What should have been a peaceful honeymoon period turned into a family crisis that rippled through our entire extended family and friend group. Connor and I had planned a 2-week honeymoon in Hawaii, but we ended up cutting it short after 5 days when the situation at home spiraled completely out of control. It started with a phone call from my cousin Elena on our 3rd day in Maui. Diane, you need to know what's happening back here, Elena said, her voice tense with drama. Maya's wedding photos are all over social media, and people are saying some really ugly things. Apparently, wedding guests from both ceremonies had posted photos comparing our dresses, and the internet had taken sides. Some people were defending Maya, saying I was cruel for upstaging my own sister. Others were calling her out for obviously copying my dress, though they had no idea about the theft. There's a whole Facebook thread with like 300 comments, Elena continued. People are analyzing photos of both dresses, trying to figure out which one is more expensive. It's gotten really nasty. Connor was listening to the conversation, and I could see him getting angry. Tell Elena we'll call her back, he said. After I hung up, Connor paced around our hotel room. This is insane. Maya steals your dress, gets caught, and somehow people are making you the villain? The social media storm was worse than Elena had described. When I finally looked at the posts, I found detailed side-by-side comparisons of our dresses, with people debating everything from the quality of the beadwork to the length of the trains. Someone had even created a poll asking which bride looked better. The comments were brutal. Maya's dress is obviously the knockoff version. Diane clearly spent way more money just to show up her sister. This is what happens when sisters compete instead of supporting each other. Maya looks embarrassed. In every photo, I feel so bad for her, but the worst part was discovering that someone had posted photos of Maya crying at her reception. Candid shots of her in the bathroom, touching up her makeup with tears streaming down her face, had been shared with captions like, "When you realize your sister played you." I felt sick looking at those photos. Yes, Maya had wronged me terribly, but seeing her humiliation broadcast across social media felt like punishment beyond what she deserved. "I need to call her," I told Connor. Maya answered on the first ring, like she'd been waiting for my call. "Diane, I'm so sorry about all of this. I never wanted it to become public. Maya, are you okay? Those photos of you crying." "I'm mortified," she interrupted. "Tyler's been trying to get people to take them down, but they keep getting shared. His family is asking questions about why I was so upset at my own wedding." I could hear the exhaustion in her voice. "Have you told Tyler the truth about what happened?" There was a long pause. I told him I was overwhelmed by having 2 weddings on the same day. "He doesn't know about the dress situation." This surprised me. "Maya, you can't keep lying to your husband. He's going to find out eventually." "I know, but I'm scared he'll think differently of me. What kind of person steals from their own sister?" The conversation left me feeling conflicted. Maya had created this mess through her own actions, but watching her suffer so publicly was harder than I'd expected. When Connor and I returned to Sacramento, we discovered that the drama had infected our entire family. My parents had been fielding phone calls from relatives demanding explanations. My aunts were taking sides, with some defending Maya and others supporting me. Family group chats had devolved into arguments about loyalty, jealousy, and sibling rivalry. The breaking point came during Sunday dinner at my parents' house, our first family gathering since the weddings. Maya and Tyler were there, along with my uncle Roberto and his wife Carmen, who had attended both ceremonies. Carmen, who never missed an opportunity for drama, brought up the dress situation immediately. "I still don't understand how both girls ended up in such similar dresses," she said, looking between Maya and me with obvious curiosity. My mother tried to redirect the conversation, but Carmen persisted. "Maya, honey, where did you find your dress? It looked so much like Diane's." Maya turned pale and looked at me desperately. I realized she was silently begging me not to expose her publicly. Tyler, who had been quiet up to this point, suddenly spoke up. "Actually, I've been wondering about that too. Maya won't tell me where she bought it, and when I try to look at the receipt for insurance purposes, she gets upset." The tension in the room was suffocating. Maya looked like she was about to have a panic attack. My parents looked mortified. And Tyler was clearly sensing that something major was being hidden from him. "Maybe we should discuss this privately," my father suggested. But Tyler shook his head. "No, I think I deserve to know what's going on. Maya has been acting strange ever since the wedding, and now I find out there's some family secret about her dress." Maya burst into tears. "Tyler, please, can we talk about this at home?" But Tyler was done being patient. "Maya, I'm your husband. If there's something I need to know about what happened at our wedding, I want to hear it now." The room fell completely silent, except for Maya's quiet sobbing. Finally, she looked up at me with pleading eyes. "Diane, I'm so sorry. I know I don't deserve it, but could you please tell him? I can't find the words." Everyone turned to look at me. I felt terrible for Maya, but Tyler had a right to know the truth about the woman he'd married. "Tyler," I said carefully. Maya took my wedding dress from my closet 2 weeks before our weddings. The dress she wore was originally mine. Tyler stared at me like I'd spoken in a foreign language. "What do you mean she took your dress?" "I mean she stole it," I said, hating how harsh the word sounded. "She took it from my apartment and hid it in our building's storage unit. When I found it missing, she lied about knowing where it was." Tyler turned to look at Maya, his face cycling through confusion, disbelief, and anger. You stole your sister's wedding dress? Maya nodded miserably. I was going to return it after the wedding. I just wanted to look beautiful for you. Maya, we talked about your dress budget. I offered to help you find something more expensive if that's what you wanted. Why didn't you just ask me? Because I was embarrassed, Maya sobbed. Diane always gets the perfect everything, and I wanted just one day where I felt as special as she does. Tyler stood up from the table, his face flushed with anger and embarrassment. So instead of talking to your fiancé about it, you decided to commit theft? Against your own sister? The accusation in his voice was devastating, and I almost felt sorry for Maya. Almost. Tyler, I'm sorry, Maya pleaded. I know it was wrong. I've already apologized to Diane and I returned the dress. When did you return it? Tyler asked, his voice dangerously quiet. Maya hesitated. Last week. Last week? Maya, we've been married for 2 weeks. You kept your sister's stolen dress for a week after our wedding? The room was so quiet you could hear the clock ticking. Tyler ran his hands through his hair, looking like he was trying to process information that didn't make sense. Let me get this straight, he said. You stole Diane's $3,000 wedding dress, wore it to our wedding, let me think you'd bought it yourself, and then kept it for another week before returning it? When Tyler put it like that, Maya's actions sounded even worse than I'd realized. And the whole time I was asking you why you seemed upset at our reception, you were crying because you got caught wearing stolen goods. Maya couldn't even respond at this point. She was crying too hard to speak. Tyler looked around the table at all of us. Did everyone else know about this? My parents shook their heads quickly. We only found out on the day of the weddings, my mother said. We had no idea what was happening beforehand. Uncle Roberto cleared his throat uncomfortably. We all thought it was strange that you girls had such similar dresses, but nobody imagined. Tyler sat back down heavily in his chair. Maya, I don't even know what to say to you right now. We promised to be honest with each other, and you started our marriage with theft and lies. Tyler, please, Maya begged. I made a mistake, but I love you. Don't let this ruin what we have. You made a mistake? Tyler's voice was getting louder. Maya, you committed a crime. You stole from your family, and then you lied to me about it for weeks. I'd never seen Tyler this angry. He'd always been the calm, patient one in his relationship with Maya, but discovering that his wife was a thief had clearly shaken him to his core. I think Maya and Tyler need some time to work through this privately, my father said, trying to restore some peace to the situation. But Tyler wasn't done. Actually, I think I need some time to figure out if I can trust my wife at all. Maya, I'm going to stay at my brother's place for a while. Maya looked horrified. Tyler, no. Please don't leave me over this. I'm not leaving you, Tyler said, standing up again. I'm taking some time to think about whether the person I married is the person I thought she was. After Tyler left, the family dinner disintegrated completely. My parents were devastated that their family was falling apart. Uncle Roberto and Carmen left quickly, clearly uncomfortable with the drama they'd helped create. Maya sat at the table sobbing while my mother tried to comfort her. Mija, Tyler loves you. He just needs time to process this. But I could see in Maya's face that she understood the gravity of what had happened. Her theft hadn't just hurt me. It had potentially destroyed her marriage. Diane, Maya said through her tears. I know I have no right to ask this, but would you talk to Tyler? Maybe if he hears from you that you've forgiven me. I looked at my sister, devastated and desperate, and felt a complex mix of emotions. Part of me wanted to help her fix the mess she'd created. But another part of me thought that Tyler deserved to make his own decisions about Maya's character without my influence. Maya, I can't fix this for you, I said gently. Tyler needs to decide for himself whether he can trust you again. As Connor and I drove home that night, he shook his head in amazement. I can't believe Maya thought she could build a marriage on lies and theft. I almost feel sorry for her, I admitted. She's lost Tyler's trust, embarrassed herself publicly, and destroyed our family's peace. The consequences are so much worse than anything I could have planned. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes, Connor said. She made her choices, and now she has to live with them. But looking back at my parents' house as we drove away, seeing the lights still on and knowing Maya was inside crying, I couldn't help but wonder if anyone really wins when family relationships implode this completely. 3 weeks passed without Tyler returning home to Maya, and the silence was deafening. During this time, something unexpected happened that changed everything. Maya's story went viral. It started when someone from Tyler's family, apparently fed up with the drama, posted a detailed account of the wedding dress theft on Reddit's relationship advice forum. The post, titled "My Brother's Wife Stole Her Sister's Wedding Dress and Wore It to Their Wedding," gained thousands of upvotes and comments within hours. The story spread across social media platforms like wildfire. TikTok users created reaction videos, Twitter threads dissected every detail, and Instagram influencers used it as a cautionary tale about sibling rivalry. Within a week, Chart's wedding dress gate was trending, and Maya had become the internet's most infamous sister. But the viral attention brought something Maya hadn't expected: a flood of women sharing their own stories about wedding jealousy, family betrayal, and sibling competition. Hundreds of messages poured into her social media accounts from women who had done similar things or been victims of wedding sabotage themselves. "I know everyone thinks I'm a monster," Maya told me during one of our awkward coffee meetings, "but some of these messages are making me realize I'm not the only person who's ever lost their mind over a wedding dress." The attention also caught the eye of Dr. Jennifer Walsh, a family therapist who specialized in sibling relationships. Dr. Walsh reached out to Maya through her publicist, offering free therapy sessions in exchange for participating in a documentary about wedding-related family conflicts. "She says what I did is actually a common pattern," Maya explained. "Sisters competing over weddings, one feeling overshadowed by the other. Theft or sabotage as a way to level the playing field. Apparently, there's a whole psychological profile for this behavior." I wasn't sure if Maya was trying to excuse her actions or genuinely seeking help, but I encouraged her to work with Dr. Walsh regardless. "Maya, if therapy can help you understand why you made those choices, it's worth it." Meanwhile, Tyler's absence was taking its toll. Maya had moved back in with our parents temporarily, sleeping in her childhood bedroom and crying herself to sleep most nights. She'd taken leave from her job because the media attention made it impossible for her to work normally. The breaking point came when a gossip blogger somehow tracked down Mrs. Romano at Bella Rosa Bridal and interviewed her about providing me with the designer dress. Mrs. Romano, bless her heart, spun the story as a fairy tale about justice and karma, but the article revealed details about the cost of my dress that made Maya's theft seem even more calculated. Isabella Marchetti Ethereal Dreams gown, retail value $8,500, the article stated. When the bride's sister stole her $3,200 wedding dress, a kind-hearted boutique owner stepped in to ensure justice was served with Italian silk and hand-sewn pearls. The article went viral instantly, with people praising Mrs. Romano as a hero and me as the bride who got the ultimate revenge. But it also revealed just how expensive my backup dress had been, which made some people question whether my response had been proportional to Maya's crime. Tyler finally called me directly, asking if we could meet for lunch. I agreed, curious about what he wanted to discuss after 3 weeks of radio silence. We met at a small cafe downtown, far from anywhere we might run into family. Tyler looked exhausted, like he hadn't been sleeping well, and he'd lost weight since the wedding. "Diane, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me," he said after we'd ordered. "Did you plan this whole thing as revenge against Maya?" The question caught me off guard. "What do you mean?" "I mean, did you know Maya had taken your dress when you bought that expensive designer replacement? Were you planning to humiliate her publicly?" I thought carefully about how to answer. "Tyler, I knew Maya had taken my dress, yes, and I knew that showing up in a more expensive version would make a statement. But I didn't plan for it to go viral or destroy her reputation." Tyler nodded slowly. "So you did plan to upstage her at her own wedding?" "I planned to wear a beautiful dress to my own wedding," I said. The fact that it happened to show everyone what Maya had done, that was just a bonus. We sat in silence for a few minutes while Tyler processed this information. Diane, can I ask you something else? Do you think Maya is a bad person? The question was so direct and vulnerable that it caught me completely off guard. Tyler, why are you asking me that? Because I've been in love with your sister for 4 years, and I thought I knew who she was. But the woman who stole from her own family and lied to her husband, I don't recognize that person. I could see the genuine pain in Tyler's eyes. He wasn't just angry about Maya's theft. He was having a crisis of faith about the woman he'd married. Tyler, Maya made a terrible decision, but I don't think it defines her as a person, I said carefully. She was jealous and insecure, and she handled it in the worst possible way. But bad choices don't always make bad people. Do you really believe that, or are you just trying to save my marriage? I considered the question seriously. I believe Maya is capable of being better than her worst decision, but she has to do the work to get there. Tyler's face softened slightly. She's been going to therapy. Did she tell you? She mentioned it, yes. Dr. Walsh has been working with both of us separately. She says Maya has something called chronic comparison syndrome. Basically, she spent her whole life measuring herself against you and feeling inadequate. This was news to me. I had no idea Maya felt that way. According to Dr. Walsh, Maya sees you as the successful, responsible, together sister, and she's always felt like a screw-up in comparison. The wedding dress thing was her way of trying to feel special for once, but it backfired spectacularly. I thought about all the times growing up when Maya had seemed so confident and put together, especially compared to my more anxious, overthinking personality. The idea that she'd been feeling inadequate this whole time was shocking. Tyler, I never meant to make Maya feel less than. I love my sister. I know you do. And honestly, after talking to Dr. Walsh, I'm starting to understand that this whole situation is more complicated than just Maya being a thief. Tyler took a sip of his coffee and looked out the window. Dr. Walsh wants us to try couples therapy together. She thinks we can work through this if Maya is genuinely committed to changing her behavior patterns. Are you willing to try? I think so, Tyler said. But I need to know that you won't stand in the way of Maya rebuilding her life. She's already facing enough consequences for what she did. The request surprised me. Tyler, I'm not standing in Maya's way. I've forgiven her. Have you really? Because from Maya's perspective, you got the perfect revenge, became an internet hero, and she lost everything. She's scared you're going to hold this over her head forever. I realized that Tyler was right. While I'd said I forgave Maya, I hadn't really done anything to help her move forward from the situation. If anything, I'd been quietly satisfied watching her face consequences. What would Maya need from me to feel like she could move on? I asked. Tyler pulled out his phone and showed me a screenshot. There's a woman on TikTok who's been making videos about your story. She's got 2 million followers. And she's been calling Maya a wedding dress psychopath and encouraging people to find and harass her online. The TikTok account showed a young woman dramatically, retelling our story while calling Maya names and encouraging her followers to drag her in the comments. The videos had hundreds of thousands of views and thousands of comments, most of them viciously attacking Maya. Maya's been getting death threats from strangers, Tyler continued. People have found her work address, her social media accounts, even our parents' house. The internet mob has decided she's evil, and they're not letting it go. I felt sick looking at the harassment Maya was facing. Tyler, I had no idea it had gotten this bad. Maya's too ashamed to ask you directly, but she's wondering if you'd consider making a public statement asking people to stop harassing her. Maybe explaining that you've forgiven her and that the family is healing. The request felt reasonable, but it also felt strange to be asked to rescue the sister who had wronged me. Would that actually help, or would it just bring more attention to the situation? Dr. Walsh thinks it might help diffuse some of the online hatred. Right now, Maya is seen as this one-dimensional villain. If people saw that you've forgiven her and that this is a more complex family situation, maybe they'd back off. I agreed to think about it. And Tyler and I parted ways with a tentative plan to have dinner together. All 4 of us, including Connor, the following week. That evening, I talked to Connor about Tyler's request. Connor was initially resistant to the idea of me defending Maya publicly. "Babe, Maya brought this on herself," he said. "Why should you have to clean up her mess?" "Because the punishment has gotten way worse than the crime," I replied. "She stole a dress and lied about it. She doesn't deserve to have strangers threatening her life." Connor considered this. "Okay, but if you're going to make a public statement, make sure it's clear that you're not excusing what she did. People need to understand that forgiveness doesn't mean there weren't consequences." The next day, I crafted a careful statement and posted it across my social media accounts. "Hi everyone, I'm Diane, the bride whose wedding dress was taken by her sister. I want to address the situation that's been circulating online. Yes, my sister made a serious mistake that hurt our family, but she's acknowledged her wrongdoing, returned what she took, and is working hard to rebuild trust with our family. While I appreciate everyone's support, I'm asking that you please stop sending hate messages to my sister and her family. She's facing appropriate consequences, and we're working together to heal our relationship. Families are complicated, people make mistakes, and sometimes the internet mob goes too far. Thank you for understanding." The response was immediate and mixed. Some people praised me for taking the high road and showing family loyalty. Others accused me of being naive, or suggested that Maya had somehow pressured me into defending her. But within a few days, the worst of the harassment began to die down. A week later, Connor and I met Tyler and Maya for dinner at a quiet restaurant outside Sacramento. It was our first time all together since the disastrous family dinner, and the atmosphere was tense but hopeful. Maya looked different, thinner, more serious, less of the carefree energy I'd always associated with her. "Diane, thank you for that post," she said immediately. "You didn't have to do that, but it helped more than you know." "Maya, I meant what I said. You made a mistake, but you don't deserve death threats over it." Tyler reached over and took Maya's hand. "We've been working with Dr. Walsh twice a week, and Maya's been doing individual therapy too." "We're not back to normal yet, but we're making progress." Maya nodded. "I've learned a lot about why I made the choices I did. It doesn't excuse them, but at least I understand myself better now." "What have you learned?" Connor asked, genuinely curious. Maya took a deep breath. "I learned that I've been living in Diane's shadow my whole life, not because she put me there, but because I put myself there. Every time Diane succeeded at something, instead of being proud of my sister, I made it about my own inadequacy." She turned to look at me directly. "Diane, you never made me feel less than—" "I did that to myself, and then I blamed you for it. Taking your dress was my twisted way of trying to steal your confidence and success." The honesty in Maya's voice was painful, but seemed genuine. "Maya, I wish I'd known you felt that way. We could have talked about it." "I was too ashamed to admit I was jealous of my own sister," Maya replied. "So instead, I acted on it in the worst possible way." Tyler squeezed Maya's hand. "We're working on communication and honesty. No more secrets, no more lies, no more trying to compete with people we should be supporting." The dinner was awkward but productive. We didn't magically become best friends again, but we laid the groundwork for rebuilding our relationship. Maya and Tyler seemed committed to working through their issues, and I felt cautiously optimistic about our family's future. As Connor and I drove home that night, he reflected on how much had changed since our wedding day. "You know, in a weird way, this whole mess might have been good for Maya. She's finally addressing issues she's probably had her whole life." "I just hope she and Tyler can make it work," I said. "They love each other, but trust is hard to rebuild once it's broken." "Speaking of which," Connor said with a smile, "I'm really proud of how you handled this whole situation. You got justice without being cruel, and you knew when to show mercy." Looking back at the past month, I realized that the wedding dress drama had taught me something important about family, forgiveness, and the difference between justice and revenge. Maya had learned painful lessons about jealousy and honesty, and our family had learned that love sometimes means holding people accountable while still offering them a path back. 6 months after our wedding day drama, something extraordinary happened that nobody could have predicted. Dr. Jennifer Walsh, The therapist who had been working with Maya and Tyler approached all of us with an unexpected opportunity. I've been documenting cases like yours for a research study on sibling dynamics and wedding-related family conflicts, Dr. Walsh explained during a family meeting at her office. Your story has become so well known that I've been contacted by several media outlets interested in doing a follow-up piece about family, healing, and forgiveness. The opportunity was with a major network morning show that wanted to do a segment on families who had overcome serious conflicts. They were offering to fly us to New York, put us up in a hotel, and give us a platform to share what we'd learned from our experience. I think it could be healing for your family, Dr. Walsh continued, and it might help other families going through similar situations. But only if everyone is genuinely ready to participate. Maya looked terrified. I don't know if I want to be on national television talking about the worst thing I've ever done. Tyler, who had moved back home 2 months earlier after completing couples therapy, was more supportive. Maya, maybe this is a chance to show people that you're making more than one bad decision. You've worked so hard to change. Connor was skeptical. Are we sure we want to make this even more public than it already is? But I found myself interested in the idea. What if we could help other families avoid what we went through? What if our story could actually do some good? After a week of discussion, we all agreed to participate in the morning show segment. The producers wanted to film us at significant locations: the bridal shop where I'd found my replacement dress, the venue where our weddings took place, and our family home where we'd had that disastrous dinner. The taping process was more emotional than any of us expected. When we visited Mrs. Romano at Bella Rosa Bridal, she revealed something she'd never told me before. I helped Diane not just because I believed in justice, Mrs. Romano explained to the cameras, but because I had my own sister steal from me many years ago. My sister took money from our family business, and it destroyed our relationship for 20 years. I saw in Diane a chance to write a different ending to a similar story. Mrs. Romano's revelation added a new layer to our narrative. Her act of kindness hadn't just been about helping a stranger, it had been about healing her own family wounds by ensuring ours had a better outcome. During the interview portion of the segment, Maya spoke more openly about her actions than she ever had before. I want people to understand that what I did wasn't a spur-of-the-moment decision, Maya said, looking directly into the camera. I planned it for weeks. I researched Diane's dress, figured out where she kept it, and took it deliberately. This wasn't an accident or a misunderstanding, it was theft motivated by jealousy. The interviewer, Maria Santos, pressed Maya on why she felt the need to be so specific about her wrongdoing. Because I spent months making excuses and minimizing what I did, Maya replied. I told myself it was just borrowing, or that Diane would understand, or that I deserved to look beautiful too. But the truth is, I stole from my sister because I was jealous of her happiness, and no amount of rationalization changes that. Tyler spoke about the impact on their marriage with surprising candor. When I found out Maya had lied to me for weeks about something so fundamental, I questioned everything about our relationship. How could I trust someone who would steal from my family and then lie about it? What changed your mind about staying married? Maria asked. Seeing Maya do the hard work of understanding why she made those choices, Tyler answered. She didn't just apologize. She went to therapy, identified the thought patterns that led to her behavior, and committed to changing them. That's not something you can fake. When Maria turned to me, she asked the question I'd been dreading. Diane, some people have criticized you for your response, saying that buying an even more expensive dress was vindictive. Do you have any regrets? I'd prepared for this question, but it was still difficult to answer honestly. I don't regret wearing a beautiful dress to my own wedding, I said. But I do regret that my actions contributed to Maya's public humiliation. The internet harassment she faced was way beyond anything she deserved. So if you could do it again, would you handle it differently? I would have confronted Maya directly about the theft instead of planning a dramatic reveal, I admitted. I was hurt and angry, and I wanted her to face consequences. But I didn't consider how those consequences might spiral out of control. Connor spoke about watching our family drama unfold from the outside. The hardest part was seeing two people I love hurt each other so deeply. Maya's actions were wrong, but Diane's response, while understandable, escalated the situation in ways none of us anticipated. The most powerful moment of the interview came when Maya and I were asked to speak directly to each other about what we'd learned. Maya turned to face me, tears in her eyes. "Diane, I want you to know that I understand now why you felt you had to expose what I'd done. You couldn't let me get away with stealing from you and lying about it. The public humiliation I faced was a natural consequence of my own actions." "Maya," I replied, "I want you to know that I've learned the difference between justice and revenge. Justice would have been getting my dress back and having an honest conversation about what happened. Revenge was setting you up to be embarrassed in front of everyone we know." I'm sorry for the revenge part. The interview ended with Dr. Walsh explaining what our family had learned about sibling rivalry and competition, Diane. And Maya's story illustrates how unaddressed jealousy and comparison can lead to devastating family conflicts, Dr. Walsh said. But it also shows that with honest communication, professional help, and genuine commitment to change, families can heal from even serious betrayals. After the show aired, the response was overwhelmingly positive. Instead of focusing on the drama and conflict, viewers responded to the themes of forgiveness, growth, and family healing. Maya received hundreds of supportive messages from people who had struggled with similar jealousy issues, and I got letters from people praising our family's commitment to working through our problems. But the most meaningful response came from an unexpected source. 3 weeks after the show aired, I received a letter from a woman named Sarah Chen, Mrs. Chen's daughter from the original bridal boutique where I'd bought my first dress. "Dear Diane," Sarah wrote, "My mother told me your story when it first happened, but I didn't think much of it until I saw your interview on television. Your story inspired me to finally have an honest conversation with my own sister about years of resentment and competition between us. We've started family therapy together, and for the first time in years, we're actually talking about our feelings instead of trying to outdo each other. Thank you for showing that families can heal from serious conflicts." Similar letters arrived regularly for months. Parents wrote about using our story to talk to their children about jealousy and honesty. Sisters wrote about addressing long-standing rivalries. Even some brothers wrote about competition and comparison issues they'd never acknowledged. A year after our wedding day drama, Maya and Tyler threw a first anniversary party, a small, intimate gathering with just family and close friends. Maya wore a simple blue dress that she'd bought herself, and she looked genuinely happy for the first time since I could remember. During the party, Maya pulled me aside for a private conversation. "Diane, I have something for you," she said, handing me a small wrapped box. Inside was a delicate silver bracelet with a small charm in the shape of a wedding dress. "I had this made to commemorate what we've been through," Maya explained. "Not to celebrate the drama, but to remember what we learned about forgiveness and family." The charm was beautiful, but what moved me more was the inscription on the inside of the bracelet. "Sisters by birth, friends by choice. Maya, this is beautiful. But you didn't need to—" "Yes, I did," Maya interrupted. "I needed to give you something that represents who I want to be as your sister going forward. Someone who celebrates your happiness instead of competing with it." As I fastened the bracelet around my wrist, I realized how much both of us had changed over the past year. Maya had learned to address her insecurities head-on instead of acting out destructively. I had learned to respond to conflict with clarity rather than revenge. The final surprise of the evening came when Tyler stood up to make a toast. "I want to thank everyone for being here to celebrate Maya and my first anniversary," Tyler began. "This year has been the most challenging and the most growth-filled year of our lives. We learned that love isn't just about the good times. It's about choosing each other even when things get really hard." He turned to look at Maya with genuine affection. "Maya, you made a serious mistake that could have destroyed our marriage. But watching you take responsibility, seek help, and work to become a better person has made me love you even more deeply than before." Maya was crying as Tyler continued. "To Diane and Connor, Thank you for showing us what forgiveness looks like. You could have written Maya off after what she did, but instead, you chose to help our family heal. The toast ended with everyone raising their glasses, but what struck me most was how relaxed and genuine the atmosphere felt. For the first time since our childhood, Maya and I were together without any undercurrent of competition or comparison. Later that evening, as Connor and I drove home, he reflected on how far we'd all come. You know what's funny? Connor said. That wedding dress drama was the worst thing that happened to our family, but it might also have been the best thing. It forced all of you to address issues that had been building for years. I looked down at the charm bracelet Maya had given me and realized Connor was right. Maya's theft had been devastating, but it had also been a wake-up call that saved our relationship before it was completely destroyed by years of unacknowledged resentment. Do you think Maya will ever do something like this again? I asked. Connor considered the question. No, I don't think so. She's learned too much about herself and worked too hard to change. Plus, Tyler would leave for real if she betrayed his trust again. And Maya knows it. As we pulled into our driveway, I thought about the journey our family had taken from that terrible wedding day to this peaceful evening. We'd gone from theft and lies to honesty and healing. We'd learned that forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting, but it does mean choosing love over resentment. Maya had stolen my wedding dress, but in doing so, she'd given our family something unexpected, a chance to build a stronger, more honest relationship than we'd ever had before. Sometimes the worst betrayals lead to the greatest healing, and sometimes the people who hurt us the most end up teaching us the most about love. The charm on my bracelet caught the light as I unlocked our front door, and I smiled thinking about how much can change in a year when people are committed to growing together instead of growing apart. Looking for more? We've got 2 amazing stories ready for you right on screen. If this one touched you, these are absolutely worth your time. Click to watch them now. And hey, subscribe and hit that bell to never miss our latest uploads.